I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, October the 1st, and fall is coming. We're in fall colors. We haven't changed into our fall hats yet because I haven't grabbed for a jacket yet. A lot of people kind of disagree and go back and forth about when it is, but basically the rule is you don't ever wear a jacket or coat with a straw hat, and you don't wear a short sleeve shirt with a felt hat. So still good as far as that goes. Alright, fall's coming. You guys up in Canada that watch this, the guys up, my friends in Montana, saying fall, hell, it's wintertime already. Got a lot of snow that fell up there. Some places as much as 4 foot of snow. A lot of them set records for the first time that they had this much measurable snowfall, but they're kind of calling for another cold, wet winter, guys, and I hate it for the guys that live up in that north country, but that's what the Farmer's Almanac's calling for, and they're usually pretty right. We got the big rally. I'll be coming to you tomorrow from Omaha. As making my way up there, I'm coming to you today from the Tracy Taylor building here in Maysville, Missouri, my old stomping ground. So heading that way and getting pretty excited about it. I think we're going to have a good turnout, and I hope some good things come from it. Let's talk about the board on Monday. October live cattle futures up 45 cents at 104.57. December down 27 cents at 110.30. We've just lost a little bit on the board here, but your fat cattle board hung pretty well. Actually better than we thought, because I told you last week that we're a little bit overbought here as far as the board's concerned, and still hoping for at least steady money on the fat cattle trade, but you know, you're going to have your ups and downs in the board, and they gained quite a bit last week, over $5 on your nearby, so it was time to come off just a little bit. October feeder cattle fell a lot more, down $1.92 at 142.40. And that's in there real tight with what your cash cattle are bringing and what your real-time index is. November down $1.05 at 141.92. Your out fronts were not off near that much, but we've got a tough row to hoe yet. These big calves are hard to sell, especially a baller. And you guys, I mean, we harp it to you all the time, but you've got to wean those calves in 60 days. You know, 30 and near enough. 45 used to be good. They want them 60 days now, and it really changes them, and it helps them whenever they change addresses to get them long time weaned like that, and it'll definitely help your price by a long ways. But your corn and beans were up big on Monday, mostly from the friendly stocks report that come out. Your corn stocks for right now, your old crop, is down 1% from what it was a year ago. Your beans were up 8%, but still less than what your expectations were, so it was considered to be a friendly report. You might have thought that the part of your grains being so much higher on the board was due to all the snowfall and everything, but it was really out of your corn belt where all that happened. Did get some moisture, but didn't really think that it hurt anything as far as what your harvest is expected to be. There's been a lot of silage put up all over the country, tons of silage. There's going to be a lot of feed out there. They're just now starting to really shell corn full bore here in the corn belt, and they're expecting a pretty big crop. Let's talk about your weighted average on last week's 5-area negotiated fed cattle trade. Thought it would be a little more volume than that, because we had a decent volume there through Thursday, and then Friday a lot of activity, and the packers just kept throwing more dollars out and getting more cattle and pulling cattle off the show list that they'd already kind of thought they'd cleaned up. But show lists come out on Monday here, and a lot bigger, especially in Kansas. And you guys know I don't take a lot of stock in those expected show lists, because you know, it's so easy to change that data and rummage around through there. They pretty much cleaned up Kansas last week, and then they come out with a lot bigger show list. But we got to expect, we've got a lot of market-ready cattle in the southern plains to get rid of the next 60 days or so. Not so much in the northern plains, but a lot of cattle down south to choke through the plants here. And we still have that plant down in Holcomb, Kansas. But Your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade, your live sales were from 102 to 107, mostly from 103 to 106 to 103 in the southern plains, and it got better on Friday, and 106 in the northern plains, and had a little bit of 107 there, but a lot of 105 was traded late on Friday. But that was evident in your weighted average for the week, because your weighted average on live steers turned out to be 104.93. That was up $3.01 from the previous week, and that 104.93 was $1.50 higher than what they'd sold through Thursday. So that's a big change on the last trading day of the week there. Your dressed cattle, steers and heifers, traded from 162 to 167, mostly 165, and that did not really change in your northern plains, because they'd sold most of those cattle on Wednesday and Thursday. Your Friday sales were largely live and largely out in the 3% area in western Nebraska, Colorado, Wyoming, places like that. But that mostly 165 turned out with a weighted average on dressed steers of 165.29. And that was up $2.82 compared to the previous week's weighted average on dressed steers. Nationwide negotiated, they sold 90,500 head, and only about 7.3% of those were for the 15 to 30 day delivery. So we don't feel like we're really getting set up with packers buying a lot of cattle just short term out front, but we are into a new month now, and so that makes it easier for them to pull a lot of those contract cattle. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central late in the day on Monday at 142.38, up 35 cents from the end of last week. So we had higher markets around, and we did. So we see Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards had a good sale on Monday, 6,900 head. Feeder steers $2 to $4 higher. Feeder heifers were mostly steady. A lighter test of calves also mostly steady. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 5,300 head there. All classes steady to $3 higher. And I've told you that the calves are hard to sell. Not so much the peewees, the lighter calves. There's plenty of demand to go to wheat with those lighter calves, but those bigger calves that need to go directly onto feed or just short-term grazing or backgrounding a little bit, if you've got a calf with any size, and I mean 600 and over, that's still a baller, they're not a hot commodity right now. There's just too many of them, and we're getting into a lot of them. We're getting into October here, and that is National Dead Calf Month. If you guys don't remember, I remind you every year when we get this time of year, but you get those extreme temperature swings from the cold nights and the hot days, and it's still getting up in the high 80s and in the 90s all through cattle country there. That's hard on calves, especially when they're missing their mama and they've got a new address. They do not like it at all. But Joplin, I told you, steady to $3 higher. Good sale there. Some more good sales around. Fort Smith Stockyards, I talked to Budge there on Monday, and they had some good strings of cattle there. Look at this string at Fort Smith. That's right on the border there in Oklahoma and Arkansas. 128 head of 692-pound steers, bring 154.30, and I didn't even know Dustin Smith, the auctioneer, knew how to sell in dimes, but evidently he does. Let's go up further up in the Midwest. Russell, Iowa, they had a good sale. Look at these loads of 8-weight steers they had in Russell. Just kind of pause and look through all those. Had a pretty darn good market there, including in these load strings here I showed you are 2 loads of 820-pound steers at $150 even. But the highest quote that I saw on Monday anywhere on feeders was Tri-State Livestock Auction, McCook, Nebraska, 61 head of 812-pound steers at $154.50. That's your feeder flash for Tuesday.